Arsenal versus Manchester United. This is the big game that we are all interested in watching this week, and hopefully we can do the tactical analysis later. From a preview point of view, I don't expect that United would do anything different from what they did against Manchester City. I still expect roughly the same lineup from United in this game. And then on Arsenal's part, I'm not really sure how Arteta is going to set up, but I suspect that he would go with his regular lineup, with the exception of Calafiori, who is out with a muscle injury. Maybe Luis Kelly will come in. But from a tactical point of view, I'm believing that United, apart from setting up as they did against Man City, will try to do the same thing against Arsenal, which is when they are out of possession, which I believe they would be out of possession for most of the game. They are not going to control this game in midfield. Let's leave that apart. They would go into this 4-4-2 mid block to help them to counter Arsenal's 3-2-5 build-up structure. And then what they did against Manchester City last week was basically compress the middle with these four players, bring everybody close together and be as compact as possible in the middle with Menu, Casemiro, Mbeumo, Fernandes, and then making sure that there is no space between the line and no space this midfield, which would then force Arsenal to usually take most of the play wide. Saka's side is what Arsenal usually favors to attack from. And then when the ball comes to Saka, as they did again in the Man City game when the ball came to Semenyo on that wing, is to have Shaw and Dogu coming in to double up. And even if Odegaard tries to drop into this space to support him, you probably would have Menu coming to cover that gap, and then the rest of United defense just shifting across to make sure that they keep that compression in the middle. You can also have Fernandes dropping in there as well to create sort of a 4 versus 2 or a 4 versus 3, depending on who is coming to support. They did it against Man City. You can watch my analysis of the Manchester derby from last week. It was basically what they did. But whether or not it's going to work and how Arsenal will adapt to this would make the difference. Because look, with Arsenal, you are playing the best team in Europe. Take it or leave it. In the Champions League, Inter tries to do the same thing. And apologies for not analyzing that game. Something happened. But let's leave that apart. In the Inter game, Inter tried to create those defensive overloads in those wide areas to prevent Saka and Trossard from actually getting on the ball and doing something. But Arsenal simply just committed more players to that place. And with some very clever rotations, we are still able to make things happen. Let me just show you an excerpt from the goal that Arsenal scored against Inter, just to understand what I'm talking about. Now, look at this goal that Arsenal scored against Inter to just help us understand how Arsenal dealt with that defensive overload that Inter tried to do. Now, it even was against Inter because Inter just played with a back five, with a 5-3-2 when they were out of possession. But just have a look at what I'm trying to explain. That this is one of those Arsenal's build-up and Arsenal on the attack. Of course, Inter has gone into their back five normally, and then they are able to sort of compress space and create defensive overloads. But now, when Arsenal goes out wide to the wing to Saka, if you notice, initially it's a 3 versus 2 here. Inter can easily defend this because they have the numerical superiority. But what happens now is that Merino joins that attack. Saliba from defense also joins in that attack. You have Zubimendi and Saliba on this occasion joining in on the attack, creating that group of 4 there. And again, there is a lot of synergy between Saliba and Zubimendi, such that when Saliba commits into that attack, Zubimendi drops back to come and cover him, like has happened in this occasion now. With shifting players around, committing more players forward, you can now see that it's a 4 versus 4. Arsenal has been able to create a 4 versus 4 on this occasion by putting an extra man, now in this case, Saliba, the center back, putting him into the mix there to create that 4 versus 4 numerical balance. And then, interestingly enough, they are still committing players forward on the other side as well, because if you look inside the box, Arsenal were still able to engineer a 3 versus 3 in the middle of the box. So they were a threat everywhere. And then, when they rotated this ball to the back, they didn't sit back to defend. If I just pause the video here, it is 7 Arsenal players in front of the ball now. Unless you want to commit all your 10 players behind the ball, there is really no way that Inter could have contained this attack. Because when the ball gets rotated back, look closely at the 18-yard box. Arsenal somehow have been able to crowd them. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players inside the 18-yard box, the numerical superiority that Inter were trying to create defensively is gone because of the extra players that Arsenal committed inside the box, inside that attack. And when there is a loose ball in the box, it's an Arsenal player that picks it up, and that was the goal. I actually wanted to analyze this Arsenal versus Inter game, but that's why I have this clip. But again, life happened. The main thing here is that Arsenal can afford to commit extra players forwards to beat your numerical overload. Man City could have done this. The reason why they didn't do it is because it will leave them exposed defensively. Max Allen, who they played at the back, is not a very comfortable defender. In fact, if you watch the game against Bodo Glimt, It was his two errors that led to the first two goals that City considered in that game. In the United game as well, if you see the counter attacks that Manchester United launched, it was because Man City were poor defensively, especially defending on the front foot, high up the pitch. Arsenal will not have that problem. Arsenal can afford to leave Zubimendi and Rice and one other defender, either Gabriel Saliba behind, to wait for your counter attack. And believe me, 1 versus 1, Zubimendi and Rice will comfortably take care of Mbeumo and Fernandes. If you're a Manchester United fan and that statement offends you, sorry, but you just have to put sentiment aside and come down to reality. I'm not an Arsenal fan, but I deal with reality. Arsenal right now has the best centre-back pairing in world football. Take it or leave it. So they can afford to commit extra players into attack, pin you back in your own half. And even when you have the counter-attack, they have the pace, they have the agility to deal with the counter-attack. But one sucker that United fans can draw from this, though, is that generally, in games like this, Arteta tends to be very, very conservative. He doesn't put everything forward at the same time. He wants to play it safe, play it compact, make sure that he doesn't concede, and then hope to nick a goal with a set piece or something. I've seen it in the Liverpool game, and I've seen it in a couple of other games that Arsenal has played this season. So maybe that is how United will get a foothold in this game. But I expect that they will squeeze United's neck in this game. Sorry to say, but that's just my prediction. But again, take it with a pinch of salt. My prediction does not mean anything. I'm only looking at it from a tactical perspective based on what we have seen from both teams in the past. Again, when big teams meet, form does not mean anything. At the end of the day, it is what both teams play on the pitch on that day that will determine the result of this game. And with that said, now, if they don't press you, every set piece, every corner kick, every throw-in, every free kick is an SG for Arsenal. So there is that to worry about as well. And I think United are quite good with set piece on their own. So that may be something that will decide the game. But as usual, I don't know. Let us wait. It's not long. It's tomorrow. After the game, we will gather here again. We will analyze the game again and see the tactics involved. Leave emotions out of it. I don't do emotions. I do tactics. So let us see how it will be at the end of the day. And as usual, if you enjoy content like this, if you enjoy tactical analysis, hit the follow button. Wherever you are watching this video from, just hit the follow button. Let us see again after the game. Analyze. See you on the next one.